Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 2024 World Chess Championship match between the champion, Ding Liren from China, and the 18-year-old challenger, the youngest ever challenger for the World Chess Championship throne, Gukesh from India. This is game number 3, and so far Ding leads the match 1.5 to half. He won the first game, and they drew the second, and it's a best out of 14 games, meaning the first person to 7.5 point wins. If it's 7-7, then they play a tiebreaker. This was a very, very epic game. And I'm going to show it to you right now. Shout out to you if you're watching on YouTube. I've also been posting these on Facebook. I saw you guys memeing in the YouTube comments, okay? Facebook is ancient. Bro's going back in time. Don't make me start posting on Twitter, all right? You talk about ancient. Or should I say X? All right, folks. This was an epic game. This was a truly epic game. I'm also testing a couple of new settings. We've got the move counter there, right here. This shows what move is the most recent one. Gukesh has the white pieces again. In the first game of the match, he played e4 and Ding played the French. My prediction was, I don't think that's going to scare Gukesh away from playing e4 completely. My prediction for the first time in this match was incorrect. Okay? This move counter will update with the latest move once we scroll through the entire move list. Okay, so you don't have to worry about the move counter just yet. But Gukesh plays d4, okay? And he wants to test what Ding Liren is going to play against d4. Now, modern-day top grandmasters are basically exclusively playing Queen's Gambit declined systems. Back in the day, Ding Liren was one of the world's best practitioners of the King's Indian defense. In the modern era of chess, at the top, King's Indian defense allows too many options to white to put pressure, and for that reason, people play knight f6 and this. Now, very interestingly already, Gukesh does not play c4, he plays knight f3. I don't really understand why. d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight f3, maybe he wanted to avoid something. Maybe here he wanted Ding, after e6, Gukesh would play some sideline. Maybe he would try to play the Catalan without the move c4. I don't really know. I'm not really sure what, if you look at the database, most people here just play c4. Knight f3 is a very interesting commitment. And, I do recaps now also with Magnus here on YouTube, so I will ask him some of the details. But d5 is the move that Ding chooses. They mirror each other, and we have c4, Queen's Gambit declined, and there it is. Now, here comes the most interesting move so far, which is crazy because there's only been 3 moves. There are 2 major moves and systems here for white. The Catalan, which is actually something that Ding plays all the time. By the way, see the board changes colors now when I analyze. This move did not happen. Or the traditional 2 knights, Queen's Gambit declined. Now black chooses what he wants to play. But there is a recent trend. There is a recent trend, particularly coming out of India. A lot of Indian grandmasters recently, and Magnus Carlsen, have been taking this pawn. Now, look, for anybody watching this that's just kind of a chess, enthusiast, hobbyist, likes to watch, maybe doesn't like to play. A lot of you like to just watch these videos. You say, I make them entertaining, but you don't play too much. This is the type of stuff that we nerd out over in chess. A pawn capture. Ooh. It's like when you walk with your friend on a hike and they try to tell you about some bird and you're like, dude, it's a bird. They'll be extinct in 30 years anyway and oceans are going to rise by a foot. Dude, it's fine. You don't need to explain what every single bird or foliage is to me. In chess, we nerd out over moves like pawn takes pawn. Why? Very uncommon. It's just not a normal thing that white just trades and plays from here. Generally, it's considered better to build up your position. But a lot of Indian players and Magnus have played the exchange variation, and then they just play. They don't leave this pawn here. In many ways, it's actually smart, because when you play knight c3, your opponent can play pawn takes pawn, c6, c5, bishop e7, bishop e7, bishop b4, dc, c6, c5, a6, knight bd7. I mean, there's a million moves. And by playing c takes d5 like Gukesh does in the game, he forces, that pawn to be gone. And now they just play a normal Queen's Gambit declined. All right, so we have c6. Okay? And now things get real interesting. Because after queen c2, Ding is completely on his own. By the way, the move counter you're seeing is move 22, but we're on move 6, obviously. That's for later because the players get 2 hours to make 40 moves. That's why we have the move counter on the screen. So Ding plays g6. As you can see from the time spend, he's down 8 minutes in the opening. The idea of g6 is pretty straightforward. You want to put the bishop on f5. The light-squared bishop in many queen's gambits struggles to develop. Generally, the knight on f3 is also not where the knight should be, and in exchange, queen's gambit declines. So white's setup is backed by modern engines, but it's a bit strange because historically, the bishop for white goes on d3, and the knight goes on that square. We have h3. Now, here's something insane about this position. If you check the opening database, it's been played about 7 to 8 times. 2 of those games are by Grandmaster Vladimir Kramnik. Now, was Gukesh inspired by Kramnik? Hopefully strictly for the chess. Is Kramnik on Team Gukesh? I mean, I don't, like, listen, part of speculation of the World Championship is to guess who people's trainers and assistants and seconds are. And yeah, Gukesh is playing like Kramnik. And one of Kramnik's opponents was Erigaisi, the highest rated Indian in the world. So we have bishop f5, queen b3, attacking this pawn. Black plays queen b6. Now you'll notice, again, there is nothing exceptional about this position for white. Until now. The entire purpose of white's setup was to target this bishop with the h3 g4 push. This is not how beginners play chess. Well, actually it is, but it's not how you're supposed to play chess. But at this level of the game, Gukesh has taken the game already into very muddy territory, very strange territory. Like, is Ding going to go backwards with the bishop? Is he going to be passive? And the reason this is such an excellent system against a player like Ding right now is that Ding is very hesitant. You can see already from the opening, right? Ding is a bit hesitant, and so he's got many choices to make. And Team Gukesh is going to bring Gukesh very prepared to the game to make his opponent try to make as many difficult decisions as possible under pressure. Ding plays queen takes b3 after 15 minutes of thinking. So the opening experiment has absolutely worked. Pawn takes b3. Ding damages white's pawn structure. He gives him doubled isolated pawns, but in chess, every trade has a winner and a loser. And obviously, the winner here is the rook. The rook is active. The loser is, of course, the pawn structure. And Ding follows this up with bishop c2. This is a very nice idea. You'll notice he took the queen first because the bishop was hanging, but the queen is worth more. And then he puts his bishop here. Unfortunately for Ding, this pawn does not need to be defended, and Gukesh fires off a counterpunch. The idea is that the knight is hanging. So if white takes on b3, the knight gets back to chase the bishop, and after something like bishop c4, you play take, e3, and you try to win back this pawn with a pleasant advantage, also pressure on the knight and pressure on this pawn. And that is why the pawn simply does not need to be protected. At this point, now that bishop c2 gets played, right, Ding knows that this is maybe not the goal. So he fires off the move h5. Now, Ding is playing a bit slowly, but he is making all the right decisions. The idea of h5 is to try to punish Gukesh. Because why is Gukesh playing g4? This is not the way chess is supposed to be played. If pawn takes, maybe we take with the knight. Maybe we take with the rook for pressure on the pawn. And if white plays g5, black is going to come in with the knight, try to trade, and obviously just have a very pleasant position where the light-squared bishop now is no longer getting chased. This bishop goes to b4, a6 is solid, the knight goes to d7, black plays all the easy moves and enjoys a very pleasant game. But Gukesh plays rook g1, and you will notice Gukesh has not spent any time yet. Gukesh is completely in his prep. For anybody confused what that is, players memorize openings. You have to memorize some stuff in chess to bring to the board and play against your opponent. It's one of the whole existential arguments of chess at the high level, like it's too explored, there's too many openings, too much memorization, etc. Everything in this position has been played before. In the game, Vladimir Kramnik versus Arjun Erigaisi in August of 2003 in Dusseldorf. They played like this. And I believe in that game, Arjun Erigaisi went bishop takes b3. It was a rapid game, and Arjun then, got under some pressure. But he managed to survive, and I believe they drew, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken, but I do think that's what happened. In this game, Ding does not play bishop takes b3, and he plays the best move. So Ding is in good form. Knight bd7. It's just a normal move. But is this bishop getting trapped? Rook c1, there's bishop e4 and bishop b3. Knight bd7 is the best move, but look at Ding's time. 33.5 minutes gone. Gone, right? And so that's a lot of time. That's a lot of time invested in the move. And will it come back to bite? Also, I'm going to live edit our move counter here because it scrolls on chess.com. And I mean, I'm realizing that, this is just not good. All right, I'll figure this out in tomorrow's recap. Don't worry. I'm going to tell you what move we're on. Or maybe we'll bring it back and, you can keep, we're going to do a little live edit here. Don't worry about it. Just Gotham chess things. This is the 13th move of the game, by the way. So we're way up there. We are way up here. Let's do this. And boom. I mean, we could video edit this, but why? Knight bd7. There we go. Move 13. I think this is a little bit cleaner. Knight d2. Notice Gukesh spent 13 minutes. That means he's probably out of his prep. He didn't exactly remember what to do against this move, and yet he plays the best, which is knight d2. Now, at this point, the reason Ding spent 30 minutes on knight bd7 is because he was calculating two specific lines. Rook c1, bishop b3, knight to d2, bishop c4, knight c4, dc4, e3 with an attack on this pawn. Black can't really play b5 because bishop g2 comes in with a lot of pressure. Rook c8 looks to do the job, but after rook a1, this pawn is falling, and you'll notice that Gukesh's position is absolutely monstrous. And so, and when I analyze the move counter, it gets all messed up, obviously. He was looking at that, and he probably thought that after rook c1, bishop b3, in this position, he would consider knight b6 instead, or something like rook to h4. So Ding needed to work out that knight bd7 works after rook c1, and after knight d2, Ding finds an incredible resource. The point is that white wants to play rook c1. And Ding finds one of the ugliest moves. It's really, it doesn't look good at all, but it is the best move. It looks so counterintuitive. To find this move is amazing. Rook to g8. And by the way, when I put the move counter, I spoil what the move is. I mean, there's no winning here, There's no winning. I got to figure something out, though. The idea is to play g5 to get the rook off of this beautiful but useless file. It only looks nice, but it's got no personality. And g5 attacking this bishop, getting out of the position is the point. And now, if rook c1 is played, g5 is the idea to take the bishop and to run away. Rook g8's a brilliant move, and it induces Gukesh into a mistake. Gukesh here should have probably gone for that, but he tries to stop Ding from playing g5 himself, and now Ding takes over, and Ding is better with the black pieces. Down 30, 40 minutes again, and yet making a very nice comeback. Gukesh plays bishop to h2. Ding confidently puts the rook right back on the file. This little shuffle, this is like the boxing Ali shuffle right here. Slide, pop him, go back to h8. I mean, this was so sophisticated and easy. And now this bishop, although stuck, has a very chill ride home here and is just a chill guy who likes to pretend to get trapped sometimes because he's, you know, he's a daredevil. F3 played by Gukesh. Gukesh is just trying to lock the bishop inside. That's the point. Ding has several moves here. He can play bishop to b4, but really the move for counterplay is knight to g7. Now again, 17 minutes and 45 seconds is a long time on this move. Probably he was considering other options, like retreating right away, but then he would run into e4, but then he would need to go bishop e6 because he doesn't want to give the center away. Then white would play bishop d3 or king f2 and maybe bring something. He needs to calculate that. He needs to calculate a6 because then the rook would be able to move. Maybe he bishop b4. Spending 18 minutes here is bold because, as you see from the counter, now he has 23 moves to go, right? And this is a problem. This is a problem. 23 moves to go to move 40, and he's only got 31 minutes to play them. We have bishop g3 from Gukesh, who obviously doesn't want to lose his bishop. And now suddenly, the game turns around. And suddenly Gukesh gets the momentum. Black here, again, spoiled for choice. Exit the position. Put the bishop on b4. Put the bishop on e7, attacking the pawn on g5. Instead, Ding plays rook h5. Now, a turnaround in chess is, you know, very mild description, right? So rook h5 makes sense optically, but white is going e4 no matter what. And maybe Ding thought after rook h5, white will not go e4. Maybe he will play rook c1, bishop f5, and then e4. Maybe he looked at this, and something in this position. But e4 is still played. Gukesh spends 12 minutes and still plays e4. And the point is, this pawn is not under attack. Why? Because the bishop is trapped. And we've been talking about it the entire time, right? The bishop is trapped. One of the benefits, though, of having brought the knight back here is that the knight is about to do some action movie nonsense and is about to fall off the side of a building, land on a car, and yet get up and buy a hot dog, okay? Like, the knight is about to come in and save the bishop. But rook h5 e4 is a major turning point, and let's not forget, Ding invested a bunch of time to kind of escape the opening preparation. 33.5 minutes on knight bd7. Rook h5, you know, more time spent putting pressure on this pawn. e4 on the board, and now this is the only sequence of moves that Ding has to play here. Ding must go knight to e6 now to try to attack this pawn. White would play rook c1. Ding would take on d4. White would play bishop f2, attacking the knight, because if the knight moves, the bishop is hanging. Ding can play bishop c5. The idea of bishop c5 is that after this, the rook is hanging, so you cannot take the bishop. But after rook g2, the bishop is still trapped. But after bishop takes, pawn takes, bishop takes b3, knight b3, Ding escapes the position with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns for 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. But after this trade, White's pawns are split. They are 3-pawn islands. They have no neighbors. And then Ding plays a5, creating some queenside counterplay. And it's actually not so simple for White to consolidate. White has a bishop for 2 pawns, but Black is doing very well. I mean, Black is going to have an active king, a strong knight, and none of these pawns strike any fear into the heart of the person playing with the black pieces. Ding needs to play knight e6 now. But there's a saying in chess: it's not the first mistake that kills you, it's the second one. It's when you try to cross the street and a car tries to hit you. No, well, hopefully doesn't try to hit you. A car tries to turn and almost hits you. And instead of just going, oh my gosh, I need to get back to safety, you argue with the car and get hit. You yell at the driver and get hit by another car. Like, this is because you're still in the middle of the road. You know, it's one of these things. That's from The Art of Learning by Josh Waitzkin. D takes e4 is the move that Ding chooses, and it's the wrong approach. Why? Ding goes for the same exact thing. He goes for rook c1, knight takes d4, and all of this sequence. But he misses that in this sequence, I don't have to play bishop takes, bishop takes. In this sequence, the backwards knight move, knight e2. And Gukesh is one of the best calculators in the world. He is a human calculator. Literally, he's a human who calculates in chess, but he is a monster. Magnus has described him as one of the best calculators on the planet. Knight e2 is the move that is going to pry apart the defenses here. Ding's bishop will fall, and now Ding is under immense pressure. Ding is going to get a second pawn, but the difference of this versus the other position that I showed you, in the other position that I showed you, Black had immense counterplay. White's pawn was here, so that they were all split completely. Black had a pass pawn, and there were no bishops, right? There were no dark squared bishops on the board. So Black got more pieces off the board and had a better structure. Again, I will remind you, the difference is that Ding released the pressure of the center. He should have went knight e6. And so after rook c1, there would have been that sequence with knight d4, bishop f2, bishop g7, or whatever, but there is no knight e2 in this version because there's knight takes f3, knight f3, bishop b4, and there's a sequence where Black actually gets out with the pieces from as many pawns as possible. But Ding misplays, and all of a sudden, Gukesh is nearly winning. Knight b3, rook c2, this trade, and now Gukesh enters the converting phase of the game. He has a bishop for 2 extra pawns. There are 2 ways to win a position like this. To win any position where you have an advantage, pay attention. Attack your opponent with your piece majority and win by checkmate. Or take the game to an endgame. Trade the right pieces to get into an endgame. If White trades the knights and maybe 1 pair of rooks, rook and 2 bishops versus rook and bishop is not a fair fight. It's just not a fair fight. Black has 2 extra pawns, but because this pawn is here and not on this square, Black's A pawn is not walking through without paying a toll. So White is winning, and on top of that, White is up 35 minutes because of his opening. His opening preparation worked out in spectacular fashion, okay? And so now we have knight to e5. And I just realized the move counter is no longer updating. We will fix this for tomorrow. I promise, because on chess.com it scrolls and it's not easy. It's not easy to track it because I've got to put something in the middle of the screen. But we will figure it out. Don't worry. It's the 25th move of the game. Ding has 18 minutes to make 15 moves or he loses a world championship game on time. Knight to e5 tries to play for knight to f3. Gukesh plays the best move, knight to d4, centralizing the knight, defending the square. Ding plays rook to d8. He's got to play every move basically instantly. Rook to d8, pins the knight on d4, and now obviously Black is just unable to move any pawns because the rook is gone. Again, Gukesh plays the best move in 1 minute, which is sliding the king off of the d file to the center of the board, and now his next move might be knight to f3, trading that knight as I just said. Ding, active counterplay, but nearly 3 minutes, in fact, yes, 3 minutes and 10 seconds off the clock. 13 minutes to go, and he just played his 27th move, which means he's got 13 moves to go. Gukesh plays bishop g2. Again, the best move. Blocking the rook. Ideas again of knight f3. Ideas also of bishop g3 removing the rook. Move counters all over the place. 28th move played by Ding Liren, who now has 11 minutes on the clock. a6 is just a waiting move. a6 is a move you play because you really can't do anything. I mean, Black literally cannot move another piece forward. But will Gukesh figure this out? He plays b3. Nice and precise. What he's doing now, he's making a stew. He's adding ingredients and stirring slowly and letting it sit. b3 is a very nice move. Protect c4, get off of this diagonal. Ding plays rook d7 in another 3 minutes. It's crazy to spend 3 minutes here. Ding has to make 12 moves in 11 and a half minutes. It's less than a 1-to-1 ratio. He spends 3 of them on rook d7, but I understand it's not easy for him to make a move. But now Ding has 8 minutes to make 11 moves, or he loses the game on time. Gukesh doesn't even have to win it on the board. And now Gukesh finds the clinical, like a surgeon. This man Gukesh has multiple professions. Rook c1. Rook CC1 is a legendary move. He's just trying to slide to the D file and make as many necessary preparations as possible. Like, if black just goes back and forth here, at some point, Gukesh is going to make the right conversion. He's going to play something like a Rook H1, just not where he loses this bishop. He'll, remove this and then do this. And so Gukesh plays, get Ding King E7 here, but Ding another 2 minutes. Ding has 6.5 minutes remaining for 10 moves, or he loses on time. Rook D1. Every move that Gukesh has made, King E2, Bishop G2, B3, Rook C1, Rook D1, he's just making improvements. That's all he's doing. Ding goes back with the king. Ding spent 5 minutes. He has 6 minutes and 30 seconds to make 10 more moves, and 5 of them just went on King E8. Listen, I get it. Black hasn't done a thing. He's just sitting and waiting for Gukesh to try to push the advantage, but now Ding has 1 minute and 50 seconds to make 9 moves. That's not enough time. I mean, maybe if he just shuffles back and forth, but Gukesh plays Bishop G3. Ding gets out of the position almost instantly in 1 second. 8 moves remaining, 1 minute, 49 seconds on the clock. Now here it is. Gukesh has made all of the necessary preparations, and knight f3 on the board. Gukesh is offering a trade, both of rooks and of knights. I told you, this is what he's trying to do. He's trying to get it to an endgame. Ding takes. Gukesh takes with the king. That's the better move. Why is it the better move? Because if bishop f3, right, the rook would be able to take on g5. But if king f3, the rook cannot take on g5, because after rook d7, king d7, rook d1 check, and the king moves, let's say, to e6, you have bishop h3. And then you have all of this, and the king is not on not in the way of anything. First of all, he's not pinned, but also there's just, I mean, the king is better positioned on f3, because had you taken here with the bishop, right, you wouldn't have been able to play bishop g4. So the king is better positioned, and the bishop is able to move to the h3 square. King f3, bishop d4, but Ding plays the 35th move with 9 seconds remaining. He has 9 seconds to make 5 moves. And he doesn't get it off in time. And on top of that, he's losing. Bishop f4, and the final move of the 3rd game of the World Chess Championship 2024, rook h5. Damn, spoilers. It literally has a big won and lost. Ding loses on time. He flags in the World Chess Championship game. Now, for anybody who's like, what? That's a cheap... No. Gukesh would have played bishop takes f5 here. And this is game over. If you take with the pawn, there's this. If you take like this, I take the rook first, and then I take the rook again. I am totally, totally winning here with white. This was a very impressive game from Gukesh, who played at 97% accuracy after a pretty disastrous first game of the World Chess Championship, where he played e4, lost in a French defense. This one, a fantastic game. Like, the opening preparation for Gukesh to make it practically challenging for Ding to have to find knight bd7, bishop c2, and how to get out of the position. Rook g8, g5, knight h5. But I gotta tell you, Ding played quite well. Ding got to this position and was better with black. But then he spent a little too much time, and the moment he tried to play a little faster, the counterpunch came from Gukesh, and he never looked back. He trapped the bishop. The wrong sequence of moves was entered. Knight e2 was brilliant, and Gukesh converted from here. But we got everything in this game. We got Gukesh playing d4 before GTA 6. We got Ding tanking, but playing really, really, really well in the opening, but then ultimately succumbing to the pressure, spending 5 of his 6 minutes in the end, and losing the game on time, but obviously it was already lost. The match is tied, and now all of the momentum shifts. It's 1.5, 1.5. Tomorrow is a break day. Tomorrow they do not play, which is very needed for Ding. But hopefully he comes revitalized and energized for the next game with the white pieces. And now, listen, he will probably lament not putting more pressure in game 2. But Gukesh is back, baby. I mean, Gukesh fans, rejoice. This is what we wanted. We wanted a close back and forth match. Friendly reminder, chessboard is at Walmart, selling out fast. Chess League 2.0 is coming on December the 1st. VIPs and Chess League Plus subscribers will be getting an email, and then we launch it to the general public 2 weeks after that. Stay tuned and get out of here.